China is doing something very good. They always have a plan B and plan C and plan D. They plan 20, 30 years in advance. And I
Right.
remember writing in 95, it's 30 years ago, when they selected their own Panchem Lama. They are preparing for the Dalai Lama reincarnation. Since
Mhm.
that time, they have been planning for it. So similarly, I think Dharamsala should plan in advance, should have a plan B and a plan C.
For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
You're watching The Gist on Stat News Global. I'm Ramananda Sengupta. Our very special guest today is Claude Arpi, historian, Tibetologist, and sinologist. And today we're going to be talking about the Dalai Lama's 90th birthday celebration and the announcements that he made and what it means for both India and, of course, China. Thank you so much, Claude, for joining us. It's a delight, as always, to have you with us.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I think you said my sound was very soft, so I'll try and speak a bit louder. Claude, let's start with what the Dalai Lama said. From what little I understand, he has said that there will be a reincarnation and it will be the traditional method. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. In September of 2011, there was a conference of the senior lamas, the Rinpoches, in Dharamsala last week. And during that conference, he gave a long statement. And in this long statement, he expressed the possibility of two ways of for his succession. One way would be the traditional reincarnation, and another way, what he called the emanation. We will come back to it later. Now, in the July 2nd statement, he reiterated that the Dalai Lama's institution will remain, will continue, but it seems to indicate, though the statement is rather vague and short, the one of 2011 was very long, very detailed. This one is very short and maybe on purpose, but it tends to say that it will go for the reincarnation, the traditional reincarnation. Is what, while reading it many times, that is what I understood, that it will go, emanation has been dropped, and it will go for the classical or the traditional reincarnation.
What is the fundamental difference between the two? I mean, just to sort of clarify.
Fundamentally, the system of reincarnation is very old. It dates from the 12th or 13th century, when the Karmapa Lama started looking after their death. Their chelas, their disciple, their monastery started looking for the reincarnated boy. So that's 12th, 13th century. In the case of the Dalai Lamas, it's only in the 15th century that they adopted this system also of succession. So today the world is different that it was in the 11th century. That's why personally I thought that the system of emanation of some new system should be found and should be adopted. But the world was different. You don't have newspaper, you don't have social media, you don't know what is happening. You know maybe what's happening in the next village, but most of the people in Tibet, they don't know what was happening in Lhasa, or only after several months. So the world is different today. His Holiness himself has pushed for a more scientific approach to all the The problem with the reincarnation that you have to wait that the person pass away, the Lama dies. Like if you take the case of the 13th Dalai Lama, he passed away in 1933. And the
Mm-hmm.
present Dalai Lama, the 14th Dalai Lama, is born in 35, on 6th July, because we celebrated yesterday his 90th birthday. So it took 2, 3 years to start a search committee with senior lamas, who sometime in some cases the lama would leave a letter giving instruction, giving indication in where he is born, the name of his parents, the village, or in some other case there is some other sign which
Mm-hmm.
guides the search committee. In the case of the after the death of the 13th Dalai Lama, the regent, Reting Rinpoche, went to search party to a lake which is very high altitude. It's one of the possibility, because China today says lake is in China. You don't have access to the lake. You're not able to find the correct Dalai Lama. It's only one way. But in that lake, realized master they can have a vision, and it happened to Reting Rinpoche, the regent. He saw 3 letter Akama, the A for Amdo, from Kumbum, the monastery nearby where the Dalai Lama is born.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives an indication of the direction. They went in that direction and found the boy. At that time, it was absolutely clear there was no other candidates, and he was intronized in 1940, but without any objection for China. China was invited. They invited a sort of an ambassador. Like yesterday, there were many dignitaries invited for the function in Dharamsala. Similarly, the Chinese ambassador was invited, but it's not because he was invited that he has all the rights on the 14th Dalai Lama or the future Dalai Lama.
Uh-huh.
So that intronization took place, and there was no question, I have to say, of the golden urn that now the Chinese are bringing. And there was just a clear knowledge that he was the proper boy.
Mm-hmm. What is this golden urn thing that the Chinese are talking about? Is that some kind of a, I mean, it almost sounds like a lottery system where, you put something in and whatever you pull out.
Golden urn has seldom been used. I think it has been used once in the case of the Dalai Lama. Now, in the 19th century, it was used one. Now you have to understand that this system of governance, with the reincarnation, there's a gap of 20 years. And the Chinese found that weakness in the Tibetan state in 19th century. And during that 100 years, there was 5 Dalai Lama. It means none of them reached the majority. The 8th Dalai Lama, 9th Dalai Lama, 10th Dalai Lama, 11th Dalai Lama, 12th Dalai Lama. Now, in case of one of these Dalai Lama, that golden urn was imposed by the Chinese emperor through his representative in Lhasa, the Amban. Now, what is a golden urn? It's an urn in which you put some names in the capsule usually. And someone, after doing some puja, will pick up one of the names. Usually there's 3, 4 names, 3, 4 candidates, which could be the correct Lama. So it has been used once. Now China is making it a law of the central government. In 2007, they published their guidelines saying that you have to use a golden urn. But golden urn has been seldom been used in Tibet. Now, something more strange about the golden urn. When the Panchen Lama passed away in 1989 in Tashilompo Monastery, he was the 10th Panchen Lama. That Panchen Lama was quite remarkable because he was found by the Chinese in Chining, which is a northeast, which is at the limit of Tibet in the northeast. Lhasa government has own candidate, but in 1951, during the negotiation for the 17 points agreement between China and Tibet, his name was imposed. China was in a position of force, and the name of that boy was imposed. So he was groomed as a communist. He came with Dalai Lama here in 1956-57 for the 2,500 years of Buddha. Everyone noticed he was very, very bright, but he was fully controlled by Communist Party. But in early 60s, he started rebelling, and he had the courage to write a 70,000 character petition. In English, it will come 140 page to Chu Enlai, the Chinese premier, and noting down all what was wrong in Tibet since Chinese had come. So that was a very, very powerful letter. Mao Zedong says it's a poisonous arrow. I think since 49, the Chinese leadership has never received such detailed critique of their regime. So, to cut the story short, in 89, suddenly he was in his monastery in Tashilhunpo. He used to visit from time to time Tibet, and he passed away. So such delegation was organized by his monastery, the Tashilhunpo, and the senior most Lama called Chatrel Rinpoche. And somehow, after 2-3 years, they found a boy. And they passed on clandestinely the name to Dharamsala. So Dalai Lama immediately did some necessarily puja and said that that is the correct boy, Gedong Chokinima. And Jiang Zemin, who was the president at that time, was so furious that boy was arrested. Now it's since 95 that boy is under house arrest. We don't know where he is. Time and again, the Chinese government has been asked what has happened to that boy. Many diplomats have asked, many head of state have asked. They said he is well, he is studying, he is happy, he doesn't want to meet diplomats or the media. So, but today we have two Panchen Lama. One which is grown by China, and one who is under our Saros, who has been recognized by the Dalai Lama by doing the traditional tests.
The next question, Claude, is that, during this gap, if there is a reincarnation, you said there is a gap during which people search for the next Dalai Lama. Who is the head of the Tibetan spiritual system then? During that gap, who heads it?
There was a regent, or sometimes several regents, like in the case of the 14th Dalai Lama between 1933 and 1950. There was two regents. One is Reteng Rinpoche and one is Taktra Rinpoche. And unfortunately, very often these regents are not at the level, or they don't have the experience to lead their country or guide their people. And it ended up by a very, very serious fight between the two regents. And that is one of the issues which is always a danger, that there'll be not a unity between the different perception of the different person involved in regency. So earlier there was other regents also. Some have behaved properly, some have not behaved very properly. So sometimes the regent is not at the level of Dalai Lama himself, especially in the case of the 13th Dalai Lama, who was a great leader, and the case of the 14th Dalai Lama, who has been able to lead these people during these difficult times. So today we will, if that it is confirmed that reincarnation, traditional reincarnation, has been will take place, we will face also that problem of regency. Now, according to the statement, the Dalai Lama said on July 2nd that his office, the office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, we used to call it the private office. Now it's called Gadan Podang Trust. Will look after the search and the grooming, and because the time he becomes an adult, he reach majority, that gap will be there. So we will need to be taught Buddhism, give proper initiation, and so on and so forth. It's not a simple process, and so hopefully there'll be the people who are able to do it and who have the capacity, and we will remain united, not like during the regency between the 13 and 14 Dalai Lama. So today it's a Gadan Podang, but I want to clarify something because many wrong information have circulated in the Indian media. There's two organizations. One is the Gadan Podang Foundation, which is based in Zurich, in Switzerland. And it's mostly the secretaries of His Holiness who are running it. But in that case, the Gadan Podang Trust is based in India, and is the main person is Professor Samdong Rinpoche, who is the most respected person today in exile, who has been himself Prime Minister Kalong Tripa, and so he will be running that office, that Gadan Podang, along with some senior lamas and some of His Holiness secretary.
Claude, you said that in case it is confirmed that there is a reincarnation process. Now, what does that mean? Do you mean it, or isn't that there could still be an emanation? That he could say that it would be an emanation instead of a reincarnation? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. It has to be big. I mean, it is confirmed, no? But Dalai Lama yesterday or day before said he will live up to the age of 130.
Right.
This I don't know because I am not. But you can start the process only after the person's passed away, because in Tibet there was many reincarnation. Usually it's a responsibility of the Labrang, we call it the estate around, or the monastery of the Lama, to find the reincarnation, and the senior-most Lama will look for. There were 4,000 reincarnated Lama in Tibet. So, but every time there is the decision remain with the senior-most Lama, but it's only after the head Lama has passed away that you can start the process. You cannot start before he passed away. You cannot start. So, in any case, His Holiness is well, is good health, so he has difficulty to walk, but he is there. So we should not project too fast on his reincarnation while he's still there. But at the same time, China is doing something very good. They always have a plan B and plan C and plan D. They plan 20, 30 years in advance. And I remember writing in 95, it's 30 years ago, when they selected their own Panchen Lama. They are preparing for the Dalai Lama reincarnation. Since that time, they have been planning for it. So similarly, I think Dharamsala should plan in advance, should have a plan B and a plan C. I know even in India, sometimes it's difficult to have a plan B, because when you take ad hoc decision, you don't have a plan B or a plan C. But I think slowly things are changing, and I hope that Dharamsala also will have different options if the main option doesn't work.
Coming back to the present, since you mentioned China, Claude, what do you make of the Chinese ambassador's sort of large and angry statement that he released to the media yesterday.
As an ambassador, he should not speak like that, because it's an interference in India's affair. Very clearly, the Dalai Lama has been an honored guest of the government of India since 1959, since he crossed in Tawang sector in March 31st of 59. Dalai Lama is in India. Dalai Lama is looked after by government of India during his travel and all. Security is gets Z plus category. So it's clearly today, it's clearly internal affair of India, and an ambassador should not speak about this thing. It may be the position of his government. Let the spokesperson in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Beijing say the few same words. It's fine. They can say whatever they want. But the ambassador should not. It's not. It's very incorrect in my views that he should speak this from the Indian territory. He can say the same thing in Beijing.
But third, from what I understand, there is a possibility now that there could be two Dalai Lamas, one sort of, foisted by the Chinese and one from here. What kind of a complication would that cause?
I think there will be two Dalai Lama, but one Dalai Lama will be selected by China. I mentioned the golden urn briefly. No, when after the Panchem Lama recognized by Dalai Lama was arrested, China decided to go for another boy from the same village, from the same prefecture in Nakshu. They are from the same village, Lari. So they selected that boy, and they said because his pedigree was good, his parents were good communists. Now, the golden urn, there was one of the three capsules inside the urn, which was much longer than the others. So one Senior Lama who managed to defect and take refuge in America was present, and he wrote a very, very instructive book, Arja Rinpoche. He was present. He said that one capsule was bigger. So this story of golden urn. So of course the governor of Tibet who picked up that capsule, picked up that the name of that boy Gyatsen Nobu. But it was planned in advance. Now, it will be the same for the 15 Dalai Lama. They will have their own 15 Dalai Lama. But now, who believes that the 11 Panchem Lama is Gyatsen Nobu? The Tibetan, sometimes in some cases, they have no choice when he visits their village in Tibet. But he has not recognition by the people. Now, you just watch, His Holiness is going to Ladakh on 12. Just watch the street of Leh. There'll be the entire population waiting to receive him. And you look at the picture of Panchem Lama, Gyatsen Nobu, the one selected by China when he goes to any town or village in Tibet. You'll have 20, 30 people. So that is the difference of recognition by the people. You can't fool the people. So let them have 2, 3, 4, 5 Dalai Lama if they want. Even, but nobody will believe it. My views about the emanation, it would have cut short all this, because if Dalai Lama said, I will emanate in that boy, means I will groom that boy, I will teach him, I will initiate him. Like in Tirupati in South India, in Kanchi ashram, we have one junior Shankaracharya and one senior one. And new one has been selected recently, is 15 or 17, 18, or I don't know his exact age. But he will be groomed for 10, 20, 30 years by the senior one. And after that, he will take over. So that's one system. The Sakya Lama which ruled 14th, 15th century. They have another system of passing on the power. There's two family, and they pass from the head, the seniormost of one family to another one. It has also worked for centuries. My only point is that there's different possibility. I think it's important to think of different possibility and which one is more adapted to today's world. Now, it seems that in the case of 14 Dilemma, it has been decided fine. But let's think ahead. What would be a better possibility in a modern world, in more scientific world, and because we don't want to end up with two karma, two panchamama. One day it should just be clear.
Let's hope that actually happens, because if His Holiness decides to go for emanation later on, it would sort of clear the confusion. There wouldn't be any confusion about who is the real next, successor. So,
Yes,
but
but I think, you see, His Holiness has to deal with many factors, many forces. Probably, I don't know, I'm just guessing, but probably some of the senior monk, old monk, they prefer to go the traditional way. They don't want to change the way it has been done for centuries. So the most conservative force will take upper hand, and it will be it's just a guess. I should not speak because I don't know enough about the religious part of it. But certainly, many people, in the monastery, they believe that let's go for the traditional. They don't fully understand sometimes the other strategic issues which are behind, and the importance in today's world to have a leader, even if he's only spiritual, because in 2011 His Holiness has given away his temporal power, and now elected Sikyong is leading the Tibetans. And but even if it's religious power, you have seen the last few days in Dharamsala, the fervor of not only the Tibetans, but for example, the Prime Minister of India wrote a very, very powerful message on X saying, on behalf of 1.4 billion of Indian, I wish His Holiness the very,
Absolutely.
very healthy life and like that. So His Holiness has a lot of supporter, because he represents something. Now, today is not the same age than he was 30 or 40 or 50 years ago. He's different. Now, he could move, he could go. Today is more, but he represents something. He represents a message of peace. And the world today needs this message. Everywhere there's war. Everyone wants this much territory, this much territory. We faced it in India and Ladakh in May of 2020. Why should China wants more territory in Depsang or Demchok, or in 1 or 2 fingers more in Ladakh? So we are facing, we are in a world where this violence prevails. Everyone wants to bully the other, get it. His Holiness Dalai Lama represents the opposite, that we can sort out. We are ready to wait, but we want to sort issues. Issues are there. They will always be there. But there's different ways to solve it. And according to him, if we solve it in a more peaceful way, it will be more sustainable. It will last. War, maybe you can have a ceasefire, but it will erupt again. If you find a solution where every party is happy, and that has more chance to last for a longer time. I think it is his message, and it's what he represents. More than the person, is what he represents. So that's why his presence as a 14th Dalai Lama, or later as a 15th Dalai Lama, is important. And China cannot have, I don't have that understanding of of real peace. What means peace and what means to not to try to extend, not to be more greedy or like that. So all this Buddhist quality, including what he calls, karuna or ahimsa, is Indian quality. So this should prevail. And today China doesn't have this. So if there's a 15 Dalai Lama in China, okay, very few people will recognize, but the Chinese state is not able to provide these qualities, or what is to sustain that quality.
On that note, Claude, I'm afraid I have to, put this interview to a close. We're running out of time. Let's hope His Holiness lives for the 130 years that he's promised to, because a lot can change in that time. Thank you so much, Claude, for putting all this into perspective for us. And I hope to have you again. Maybe when the Dalai Lama turns 100, we will look back at this interview and
we can meet before.
That was Claude Arpi, eminent Tibetologist and sinologist, talking to us about the Dalai Lama's recent statement about reincarnation, what that means, and what it implies for not just India, but the world, including China. I hope you enjoyed this particular edition of The Gist, and I look forward to seeing you again. Till then, this is Ramananda Sengupta signing out.